For Dr. Nkrumah, main architect of Ghana's independence, this is a day of fulfillment. The longing to be free, the need to be free, these are part of the rightful heritage of man, a heritage denied to colonial Africa until now.
The flags rose. The colonizers left. The people danced. A new dawn was declared across the continent. But behind the jubilation, wounds still festered. Borders carved by foreign hands remained. Economies still bound to distant capitals, and a freedom promised was freedom postponed. Africa stood at the edge of possibility, unaware that the shadow of colonialism had simply changed form. This is the story of that shadow, the silent architecture of control, the hidden programs of exploitation, and the conspiracy that keeps a continent in chains long after the chains were removed. What if Africa never truly became independent? To understand today's Africa, we must rewind the clock to the days of its hard beginnings. This is what I call the blueprint of exploitation. In Berlin, men with monocles and ambitions carved up a continent they'd never set foot on. Africa became real estate, divided by rulers, not reason. Their ink drew borders where no blood had been shed, yet would be. With maps as weapons, they dismantled kingdoms, severed cultures, and stitched together nations bound not by unity, but by European greed. The land was repurposed, the people repackaged, and history rewritten not in African voices, but in colonial ledgers. What they left behind wasn't sovereignty, it was a design for dysfunction. And long after their ships sailed away, the blueprint stayed. Colonies weren't nations, they were machines, built for one function, extraction. Economies designed not to sustain Africa, but to enrich Europe. Infrastructure wasn't laid to connect people. It was built to transport raw materials out. Education wasn't tailored to liberation. It was engineered to produce clerks for colonial administration. Even currencies were pegged to foreign standards, draining value before it ever touched African soil. These machines didn't break at independence. They simply changed operators. The gears still turn. The wealth still flows, just in a different direction. And Africa, still chained to a system never meant for its prosperity, continues to pay the price. Freedom masked in forced labor and cultural erasure were all tools designed by the colonizers to keep African in chains. Freedom? It came with a price hidden beneath the surface. A price disguised as progress. New flags, new leaders, same game. The handshake of independence masked contracts of control, and beneath the surface, the old powers never really let go. The body was enslaved, but the final conquest was the mind. Colonialism didn't end at chains. It evolved into curriculum, creed, and culture. Languages outlawed, traditions mocked, spiritual systems labeled as savage. Entire generations were conditioned to wear shame like skin. They were taught to admire foreign gods, foreign governments, foreign goals, while their own legacies were buried under the rubble of a stolen narrative. Africa wasn't just robbed of land. It was rewritten, reprogrammed, repurposed, and the echoes still ring in classrooms, pulpits, and parliaments today. The deepest captivity is one that feels normal. But the code met resistance, and the land fought back. The blueprint of domination cracked against the iron will of a continent. The soil that had been carved and claimed birthed rebels, revolutionaries, and dreamers. From Ghana to Guinea, Kenya to Zimbabwe, leaders rose, fueled by memory and blood. Their message was clear. Africa is not yours to control. Kwame spoke of unity. Nkrumah rallied masses. Kenyatta lit the fires of self-determination. Sekou Touré rejected the leash of compromise. These were not pawns in a foreign game. They were architects of defiance. And their resistance wasn't just physical. It was spiritual, cultural, psychological. Africa's soul surged forward, demanding to be heard. The cost of resistance? Immeasurable. But it sparked something greater, a Pan-African awakening. The embers of resistance didn't fade. They ignited a fire that leapt beyond borders. Across the continent, voices began to harmonize. Struggles once seen as isolated became threads of a shared tapestry. From Accra to Addis, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, the idea took root. Africa's liberation must be collective. The awakening had begun, and its heartbeat echoed with unity. Freedom was declared, but the chains evolved. Independence ceremonies marked new beginnings, but beneath the flags and anthems, old frameworks were simply rebranded. Colonial governors became presidents. Colonial banks became partners. But the structure? The system? It remained. The laws stayed. The debt stayed. The economic doctrines and global hierarchies stayed. Power changed hands, but not direction. Neo-colonialism wasn't a theory. It was a reality wrapped in diplomacy, trade deals, and foreign aid. Africa didn't escape the machinery. It was pulled deeper into its gears. And the true cost of freedom was ownership without autonomy. Aid replaced ownership. Loans replaced loot. And with every signature, Africa spiraled deeper into economic dependence. Beneath the guise of generosity lay a ledger of control. Development became a debt sentence, crafted in boardrooms continents away. The hands that once seized with force now extended contracts, fine print engineered to extract without bloodshed. Sovereignty was sold line by line, and as signatures flowed, the continent's future was mortgaged to powers it thought it had left behind. The ink dried, the debt mounted, and the signatures kept coming, until the paper trail pointed to a design deeper than economics. This wasn't just policy. It wasn't just history. It was a formula, a pattern, an invisible code that stretched across borders and generations. Not accidental, not incidental, but intentional. What if colonialism wasn't a moment in time, but a long game meticulously played? What if Africa's underdevelopment was never a failure, but a result? Let's follow the thread. Some say colonialism ended in the 1960s. But if that's true, why do the same powers still own the wealth beneath African soil? Why do former colonizers still dictate African policy through banks, trade, and curriculum? The flags changed, but the fingerprints remained. The old empires traded battalions for boardrooms, shackles for spreadsheets. Was this all by design? This isn't a relic of the past. It's a blueprint for the present. This is not just history. This is strategy. Long-term, quiet, effective. And the deeper you dig, the more deliberate it looks. If the strategy was deliberate, then the response must be too. Africa's story cannot remain trapped in reaction. It must rise in creation. Across the continent, new voices, visions, and victories are shaping a different future. Economies built to serve, not surrender. Education rooted in heritage, not hierarchy. Technology tailored to context, not control. The past was designed to divide. Now the mission is to rebuild. From policy to poetry, the continent is rewriting its code. The way forward begins with reclaiming the pen. But the code can be rewritten. From Nairobi to Lagos, Dakar to Kinshasa, the silence is breaking. Across the continent, a new generation is hacking the system, restoring language, reclaiming land, reimagining economy. They're not asking for permission. They're building alternatives. Tech that speaks in dialects. Farms that feed futures. Schools that teach truth, not colonial echoes. The code wasn't built for Africa's rise, but now it's being reprogrammed line by line. And this time, the architects come from the soil itself. The future belongs to those who break the code. Like, share, and more importantly, question everything. Subscribe for more thrilling stories from Africa.